Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. We're really happy to have you here. And we certainly know that starting a business in a new country or even a new province can be an exciting step, but definitely an overwhelming one. So first off, definitely give yourself credit for showing up today, for being here and taking, for many people, possibly that very first step into being a small business owner, to being an entrepreneur. Before we dive in, I just want to do kind of a quick icebreaker. Just put in the chat where you are joining us from, or even if you're planning on starting a business or if you're running a business there. So it'd be great to hear people from you there. Just one thing with the chat today. We can see it, but you might not be able to see it amongst you. So if you put questions in there, I'll be watching out and I'll make sure that we ask those to Abdallah. Before we begin, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. Business Link acknowledges and respects that we're on traditional land, meeting ground, territories, gathering places, and travelling routes of Treaty 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10, and the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the lands of those who have come before us, reside here now, and in the future. And so absolutely welcome and thank you again for joining us today. We're going to be looking today at business startup tips for newcomers. My name is Matt Hill and I'm the Director of Client Service and Operations here at Business Link. And we're excited to help you explore the key steps in launching your business in Alberta. The legal requirement, financing, any support that's required, we're going to look and cover that today. Before we begin, let me introduce who we are. Business Link, we're a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting small business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. Whether you're just starting out, looking to grow, we provide free one-on-one advice, market research, webinars like these, and access to lots and lots of resources on our website. Our goal is really to make entrepreneurship accessible by offering the type of tailored guidance that you'll need as a newcomer starting a business for yourself. So with that, I'm absolutely, it's a pleasure to introduce Abdallah Mohammed, a member of the Business Link Client Service team and manager of client service here at Business Link. Abdallah holds an MBA and has a background in telecom engineering with extensive experience in business development, sales, and leadership. Over to Abdallah. I'm going to just do the easy job today and keep an eye on the questions and keep things running smoothly and hopefully on time here. But yes, over to Abdallah.
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, everyone, again. And thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. We're going to cover, as the title says, it's going to be just some tips for newcomers on getting started. Being a newcomer myself, I think just navigating the landscape of getting started in a business is always requires some help and resources as much as possible from everyone. So what we'll learn today in our presentation, next slide, we're going to cover a couple of topics. One main topic would be, how do you refine your business idea? And what I mean by that is basically what will make your business stand out. So if everyone has a business idea, everyone who's planning to get started in a business might have something in mind in terms of what they plan to do. It might be a business that you have started back home, and when you came over to Canada, you might be interested in exploring that, or it might be a hobby that you want to monetize, or it might be anything that you think is going to make will give you the right returns that you have anticipated and set for yourself. So we'll touch a little bit on that side of things, on how a business idea can be validated and refined, and what tools might be available at your disposal to do so. And next, we'll touch on just the legal structure. What's required if you want to get started? What kind of steps do you need to take to get started? And what is the legal landscape in Alberta like when you're registering a business? And then moving on, we'll talk about, obviously, always the interesting part of getting started is the resources. I need resources. I need to finance the business. I need money to get to cover my basic expenses and so on. So we'll look into that and cover some topics around that area. And then finally, we'll look into some support systems that we can leverage as for newcomers. There are plenty of resources, as I said, out there, and we'll touch on that and see how and give you some insights into that as well. Moving on to the next slide. We're basically a nonprofit organization that's just there to help people who want to get started in business. And even if you're in business and you need the resources and support, we can provide that to you. We do that through different sets of programs, which I'll touch on during this presentation today. And some of these resources are available through our website, or you can set up an appointment with one of our team members. We call them strategists. It's part of the client service organization, and we tend to just address client needs on a day-to-day basis. We do that through meetings, whether that being virtual or in person, and we also man a call center from 8:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday. Moving on to the next slide. So all these resources, as I said, are free. We have programs now. So if you have a pressing issue, a question around, starting a business, or if you're in business and you need there are areas where you feel you need some help with, we'll be more than happy to do that. And you can just book an appointment with us online through our website. And as I said, these meetings can be in person. They can be in person in our offices in Edmonton and Calgary, or virtually throughout the week. Some of the programs we've also tailored some programs which are very specific to working in depth with clients on how to basically get started if they're at the startup phase. And I'll touch on that program one in my presentation today. And we also do these webinars. So like the webinar today, we have events that we also host every now and then. There's one upcoming event for newcomers on the 15th of March in Edmonton. It's sold out, but these events are frequent, and we participate, reach out to other organizations in the ecosystem, other organizations that are helping newcomers with getting started in business, or just having them, or helping them in their business by just helping them with the resources, and also providing them with the relevant support when it comes to sharing information. The first step would be, you have a business idea, you're thinking of something, you want to see if that idea works. So there are a couple of questions to consider when you're actually trying to identify the right opportunity. And I listed a couple of areas here that is something to think of. One thing that I would usually start with for a potential idea or exploring a potential business opportunity is just to understand what that idea is actually solving. Is there a gap in the market for that idea to be resolved? So if you're bringing that kind of solution, then this is a recipe also for success. If you're able to identify a problem that is maybe customers can tap into your idea, or can use your service to resolve that issue, then this is definitely a very good first step. And I'm giving an example here, like, for example, like a mobile car wash service. Let's say so many mobile car wash services there, and then so many car services available. And if I'm coming with an idea that's, for example, providing more mobility to that service, then what I'm doing is I'm trying to cater to a segment of the market that maybe they don't have the time to go to a traditional car service, like busy professionals, for example, and they need to get their car cleaned as well every now and then. So having that kind of idea as an example, for example, is a good starting point. So you have an idea and you want to look into what that idea is trying to resolve. The other thing is just to understand who you're targeting. So who's my target market? And in this previous example, we've identified maybe busy professionals being a target market, and obviously also looking into who's providing a similar service, or who are my competitors. So traditional car washes in this example would be your typical competitor. So identifying the right opportunity is all about just trying to crystallize and make your idea as unique as possible, and also understanding who you're targeting. And this helps as well when you're getting started in business, because when you've identified your target market, it helps with your marketing message. It helps to understand how you can channel or service your clients better. And it helps to understand what their needs and wants are. And then obviously with, as I said, with competitive advantage is maybe another area to consider is what makes me different from my traditional car service. Well, in this case, it's mobility. I'm providing mobility. I'm providing convenience. I'm making it easy for professionals to actually have that service delivered to their doorstep. So having that kind to the landscape and seeing who's out there providing something similar and trying to identify your uniqueness and your and how you can make yourself stand out is also a good recipe for getting your business off the ground on solid footing.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I just to interrupt for a second there. I think as to a newcomer audience, like is important, particularly looking at understanding the market and that the competitive advantage in your business. Like a newcomer as well. I wasn't born in Canada. I've lived here for 7 years. Lots of my assumptions were wrong when I moved here. I thought I would know about the case because I know people back, know what it's like back in the UK. It's different here, different. The market's different. So many of those things that I probably really took for granted weren't actually the case when there. So, like, definitely as newcomers, it's an added challenge. You really stand that local market, and doing that research can be it's definitely got to be done. You can take less for granted, I think.
No, 100% not well said. I think it's, and then that obviously also helps with just trying to get a sense of, even with a good understanding will give you a sense of if these businesses are successful, like this idea has really worked for someone else. And if it has, how can you improve on that? How can you make yourself different? And then obviously with research, that also brings the subject of just understanding the industry outlook, meaning like what is the car wash business going to look like? I don't know, in the next couple of years, in the next 5 years, for example. And this is something that we can help with. We help with what we call free secondary market research, and I'll touch on that during the presentation as well. And we're able to do that because we have some databases and resources that we're able to tap into. And this helps you to get a sense of just the outlook. Is this idea gonna sustain, I don't know, for the next 5 or 6 years? And if so, how is the growth like? How is the car wash business? Are there more cars being sold over the next 5 years or 6 years than today? And so this gives you a sense of how to actually just position yourself in a way that makes you as successful as possible. So in the understanding the market, understanding the industry, and then finally just understanding what is, am I able to make money from this? And this is basically like core question. And I'm assuming everyone who looks into entrepreneurship is obviously looking for profitability because there's a lot of effort involved and so on. So understanding how much it's going to cost me versus how much I'm going to make, and assessing that vis-a-vis businesses that are in the same domain is definitely a good thing to consider. So these are some of the questions that I've just, or areas that I've just put noted there for just thinking of identifying what might be a good opportunity when you're exploring that next thing. Personal readiness, as you think, it's very important to also ask yourself, because like starting a business is a big commitment, and so there are some questions that I think would be great to have yourself when you're getting started. And I think one of these would be just there's a time commitment involved. So it's not only resource intensive when you're getting started in a business, it's also time intensive. It's probably more than more effort involved, especially in the startup phase when you're getting started, because you want to set your business from the ground up. So there's so many issues involved with that. So there might be long hours that you need to spend doing that. So personal readiness is something that I would encourage everyone also to consider and think of when you're getting started. The other thing is also the skills and knowledge. So if you feel that there's like you're starting maybe a food business, so what kind of food business am I looking to get to explore? And do I need a chef, or am I good in cooking? And so just knowing what your skills are and just trying to identify what skills you need to get that service out of the door is also something I would encourage people to think of before moving forward. Obviously, with every business, there's a risk, and there's always a risk when you're when you're getting into a business, and there's so many uncertainties. I know there's also the economic climate can change, as we've heard, like rates are being lowered, for example, in the now. So there are things that are taking place in the macroeconomic level and things that are also within the industry. So just having an understanding of these external and internal factors will keep you, I think, ready and at least mitigate any risk that you might have when you're getting into that business that you're very passionate about. And then finally, support systems. So friends, family, do I have? It's always great to have one. And I was a business owner myself, and I cherished having a support system when I was doing my business. And it just helps. We can be friends, family, and they're mentors, and there's mentorship programs out there that can also can take advantage of. And these are usually with people who are in a similar industry, or they've been in the business in the same domain, and they can give you some kind of they've been there, done that, and so they can give you that kind of guidance when you're moving on. Yeah, next slide. With market research, as I said, we have so doing the research is just basically about getting the right information, and there are obviously steps in terms of doing market research, but it's about understanding just how much is knowing who the persona of your potential customers, and then as I said, the industry outlook. How are we going to take advantage of a growing industry? Like I know, like a lot of businesses now are exploring AI. AI is now a general theme for so many industries, and they're taking advantage of the evolution of AI. So just understanding that piece and how can I make that that into my business to make it so seamless and efficient will definitely be something that can help moving forward. And just observing these trends and see how they fit into the bigger picture.
And this is the thing I think we see people kind of skip over most quickly, most often. Like they fail to kind of they oh, I know the business, I've worked in this industry, I know what it's doing. Really, like skipping this step, you are decreasing your chances of that long-term success. And market research can take many forms. Like the team at BusinessLink can help you get data from databases and that type of thing. But market research might just be as simple as going to speak to 5 people who are potential customers. Like, if I'm planning on running a commercial cleaning business, maybe it's walking into 5 businesses and going and getting a way to speak to the decision maker. So people really skip this. It makes things much harder in the long run. Like, speak from absolute first-hand experience there. I skipped this and learned a lot in the first 6 months, the first year of my business, that if I'd known before starting, I would have increased my rate of success much more. So and I was kind of fortunate that it worked out okay, but it's risk, yeah, a step not to skip.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think it's just a crucial piece
Mm.
of pre-planning steps and knowing what you're getting yourself into. I think that's always a good thing. And it does help to just minimize risk. And then just building on that, like research itself has like there are two main areas when we talk about market research. And one is what we call primary. And primary is just basically just asking your potential customers who they think of the service you intend to introduce into the market. And it could be as simple as just asking them or a simple survey. Like that car wash, the mobile car wash service example that I gave a while ago. It just could be just look, speaking to some busy professionals and asking them what service would you like delivered to your doorstep? I'm thinking of starting this mobile car wash business and it's ready to go and just need some insights on how can I deliver the optimum service that meets your requirement. So asking just the potential customers, asking who's the end users. And if you're, I don't know, planning to start a food business, maybe just asking people to test your recipe or and so on and so forth. So this is what we call primary market research, and it's asking potential clients. And there's so many ways on, as I said, of doing that. Could be surveys, it could be even just posting stuff on Kijiji. So these are essential kind of components when you're gauging the end users of your service and the recipients of your product or service to get their insights into what you plan to do. And this will help you also just improve your offering or modify your offering or just complement your offering with other stuff. And then secondary market research, which Matt just spoke about, is just industry understanding, what this industry looks like and how it's going to shape into the next into the near future. And as Matt said, this service is available to all aspiring entrepreneurs through our free secondary market research. You can go to our website, businesslink.ca. We have you have free market research, secondary market research service, and you can book an appointment with one of our team members there, and they'll be more than happy to. They'll have like consultation meeting just to get to understand what your needs are, and then they'll send you the relevant reports that can help you just better understanding of your needs. And I've put some in this slide. I've put some resources that can be also useful other than business. Like you have like Canada. This is a free resource. You can go to StatsCan. You have just of information on just different industries and so on. Public libraries. To the public library. They also have they have a database and there's so much research that can be extracted from the resources that are available at the library. And then obviously also university libraries as well. And do allow public access. So they have also a collection of information that you can tap into. So getting the information, there's so many resources out there. It's just available everywhere. And I might add AI as well. So ChatGPT to this list, but so information is readily available. And this is something I'll definitely encourage people to.
I gave you like a really practical example in Calgary. There's the city of Calgary published these neighborhood profiles, and it's lots and lots of information, data on each neighborhood in the city. If you think about the value of that for our mobile car wash example, if I'm going to go and spend my day putting flyers out in a neighborhood, you can bet that I'm going to go and check those neighborhood profiles and see which neighborhood has the highest disposable income. Your neighborhood has the groups of people that I've identified as my target market, because that's where I'm going to start, isn't it? And that is kind of freely available. And yeah, you can Google lots of that, but the team at BusinessLink are very, are good at kind of in the right direction of those things as well. So yeah, so much that it's kind of that first-hand information that you can get. Lots of you can do whole industry information on the size of the car wash business in Canada, but us telling you that it's $1.4 billion is probably less valuable to you than knowing how many, how average income in the neighborhood is. And you can go and kind of, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just another case study for everyone, like with Ahmed here, and he wants to, this is the steps he's taking to validate his business idea. So just a recap to what I've just said. So he's moved to Alberta, and then he's realized that, authentic food that from his home country that's not available at the local stores. And so he saw that as an opportunity, and he said, you know what, I want to make sure that, demand before launching this, before importing this in. So to do that, to validate his idea, he just surveyed some, to these community centers that he typically goes to. Saw a couple of folks there, and then he said, you know what, how do you see demand for this product? And they were like, obviously this was his of getting that primary market research that I was talking about earlier. So he said, fine, he's done that first step, and then he reached also out. He also went to the grocery stores that are shelving that ethnic food, and also restaurants. And he also went around, did a bit of, asked if that he wanted to import was the demand for them. So for him, it was his way of doing the primary market research, which is asking the potential clients or authentic food. And then he did the industry outlook. So he did some market research, went to a public library, done some market research, and just checked the size of the market. How is it priced? If it's there, like like how similar products priced, and what are the preferences that different people. So basically, with this exercise, what Ahmed was doing, he's trying to reduce his risk and ensure that just will work. And this is just kind of a recap to what I was just saying in terms of validating, identifying the opportunity, going through the process of saying whether or not there's demand and a need for that, and doing the research and the steps to get to that point. And we can help you with that. So we have the business launch. a program that we've introduced. It's 3 sessions weekly. It could be weekly or bi-weekly, whatever works for our clients. And we walk you through those different steps. And the first session is just around the business validation that I've just spoken about. And with the business launch, it's all about just helping you with as much resources as possible to get your idea or bring your idea to life. So next section is just about understanding the different business structures and the requirements. With like doing a business, when you're registering a business, you can register a business. First step is to register, obviously, and then registration can be done at any registry. You can register also through an accountant, through a law firm, and or just different registries like AMA or online owner.co. There's so many ways to register your business. But the first question that the registrar will ask you is, what type of business structure are you going to register? Is it a sole proprietorship? There are 3 business structures: sole proprietorship, partnership, and you can incorporate. And the difference between the first two and incorporation is that with incorporation, you're creating a separate legal entity. Sole proprietorship is just simple, it's low cost, but you're responsible for all debts personally, versus an incorporation where you're limiting the liability to that entity. But it takes a bit more work. It's a bit more complex in terms of, you need to do some corporate filings every now and then and consider other things. And then the next step would be just to license. So there are several layers when it comes to licensing. There's the city licensing or municipality licensing. And there's obviously a provincial layer and a federal permit depending on the industry. So doesn't or may not apply to your business. Give you an example, like the food business might require a as you might need to speak to, let's say if you're in Edmonton, the city of Edmonton, to understand what the licensing might look like for that business. And you might need also a provincial license from Alberta Health Services for a food handling permit. And then finally, something else to consider is to register for a business number. And these business numbers depend on the business numbers for taxation purposes. You may or may not need it. And it also depends on whether you'll include like GST. If you reach like 30th of sales in a year, you'll need to charge your clients GST. And obviously for payroll deductions, and in the example I gave earlier, if you're doing import-export, that's also something you might need with a business number.
Yeah, just this, we just have a question from Lisa in the chat there. She just says, will local registry offices also advise applicants that they need a business license or potentially a CRA business number if businesses aren't aware already? The only thing I would say there is that some may do that, but they're probably not going to do that consistently. So a local registry is going to do what you ask them to do. So if you want to register, we call it declare a trade name. So it's like registering as a sole proprietor. They're going to do that for you. As part of that process now, they do get a CRA number as well, but they're not going to ask you about your municipal business license. They're not going to check whether you have worked with Alberta Health Services to meet the standards required to serve food or whatever it might mean. What Business Link can absolutely help you with there is walking you through some of those, because just our experience at dealing with many of those businesses. But yeah, just to Lisa's question, at the registry office, they're not necessarily going to through absolutely everything that you would need to do in order to pick up and running. And it's quite, a simple business. I was dealing with a guy who wanted to be a house painter before Christmas here. And on the surface of it, it's really quite simple. But actually, once we get into it and he wants to take deposits before he starts work at places and things, it becomes a bit more complex. And he needs a different type of license with the province and that type of thing. So the Business Link flag, the team really are, they have the knowledge of what you need, or can certainly find it as well.
Yeah. And it's part of that business advice that we provide at Business Link. So again, at Business Link, a website, there's a way that you're able to if you just book an appointment with one of our team members, and they'll be more than happy just to help. I mean, business, there's specifics, as Matt said, and they can just help you just navigate that process and how do you get, that you need to get registered and different licensing depending on your business requirement. There's also a bizpal.ca. You can, that, and it can give you also a list of just the requirements for specific business industries and what that might look like. So other considerations as well is when you're starting is insurance. So insurance business is something to consider when you're getting started, and that covers couple of things. So if you're looking into product insurance, or even if it's a professional service that you're offering, a liability insurance, then business insurance is something to consider as well when you're in that startup phase. And with business insurance, you obviously insurance provider should be able to help with the service and give you more information on what this might look like for your business and what kind of insurance you might need. Having a separate bank account is always desirable because you're able to also separate your personal and business finances, and that helps later on when you're doing bookkeeping and so on. And obviously bookkeeping is that I would definitely recommend using, for example, tools. If you can do it in a simple Excel, or you can just use tools that are out there that can help you just track your receipts and so on. So these are some to consider when you're getting that business plan off the ground. Marketing is obviously that is as important as mentioned, the market research. So marketing is all about just making sure that product advertise for your product, and it can take so many different shapes and forms. We have a program for businesses who have a website. It's called Digital Marketing Program, and we have just team members who are able to help you with their experience and background on how to just promote your online marketing presence and making sure that your product awareness is covering, that might help you promote that business. But it's simple as just having a website, maybe even a Google profile, and media marketing. Again, depending on the service you're offering, sometimes you might be offering just then you're only dealing with businesses, so that might mean or networking, or just calling and reaching out to businesses directly. So marketing is all about, understanding as well who you're targeting and just making sure that you're using the right tools and tactics to and strategy to address those target groups that you're planning to sell your product or service to. Yeah, a couple of other things like for contracts and agreements. So you might need a supplier agreement in Ahmed's case if he's going to bring that product from home, and so having that in place that sets clear expectations and on how you want to move forward with that product is also something to consider. Or if you're providing a service to someone, a service agreement that states, for example, the service you're offering, so you're setting your expectations for your clients, which helps with customer relationship. So that's part of the dynamics of once you're getting started into a specific area, and having under service might be relevant, and what level of service you can provide within the resources and means that you have at your disposal. One other point would be just the team. Do you need a team? And if you do need a team, just understanding the the rules around that. Are they going to be full-time employees? Are they going to be working with contractors on a project basis? And understanding those helps as well when you're in hiring and or using external resources to get your project. Back to our Ahmed again. He's done this research. He's gone through the initial process, and now he's get started. So he decided on a business structure. He went and registered with one of the registries, and then he contacted the city just to understand the licensing requirement that might be needed for his business. And then obviously, as I said, number he's going to be doing import exports. He also needs it because he might be selling more than 30,000, and also GST, also a number for the reasons I've just mentioned. Because he's importing, these are more specific to imports. He also checked just the information from the Canada Border Service Agency and the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, just to make sure he's in compliance with those when it comes to imports and food safety laws. he's obviously bringing something from abroad. So there are also areas like the Canadian labeling and quality standards. So these are the kind of information that Matt was referring to. When you speak to one of our advisors, they will be able to help you just understand for specific, businesses, what kind of advice you can get for your line of business that you intend to explore. And yeah, so on next slide. And then financing. So financing is obviously another area where research would be equally important, just to understand what might be needed for your business. So if you're getting started there, it's very important to figure out your startup cost, and that's kind of like personal. One of it is also like financial readiness. And so financial readiness is just making sure that startup cost might look like. And this might be like leases, as I said, if you're hiring people and so on. And just to need to just understand those areas and make sure that you know a fairly good understanding of what that might look like, and also looking into what kind of resources are at your disposal today. So do I have this amount that I need for getting started within my do I have that now, or do I need to look for these resources from family and friends, or do I need to look for a way to finance my business? One thing that we also do is we help with what we call like cash projections exercise. It's part of the cash flow canvas. So not only understanding what you might need as a startup, but just having an estimate of what to expect in terms of revenues. And that comes obviously from the research piece that we talked about. So understanding how much that industry might deliver and what's your expectations from the resources you've invested in on how much business you're able to generate versus the expenses that you'll incur on a monthly basis, and just seeing how profitability might look like for your business. This is something that we can help with as part of the support that we provided Business Link. It's just with your cash flow, and it's part also of the business launch program, and we also have a separate program for cash flow which includes webinars. Maybe just a note there on from the previous slide is yeah, so it also includes just understanding like space do I need, and giving an example here, like for a typical retail store might spend 40% on the inventory, maybe 20% on the rent and the lease, and maybe 10% on marketing. So just understanding that breakdown and making sure that you're at kind of a of what to expect and where this money is going. Even when you're looking for funds, and there's that part of just on making you have, let's say, a business that's going to cost you $5,000 to get started, and you are able to, for example, you might need, let's say, 3,000 from sources. So that 3,000, just understanding where that's going towards, will also be helpful when you're requesting that amount in your proposal to a potential lender. Moving on. So developing a budget and keeping it up to date is very important. As I said, like where you finance your business from. So we have obviously your personal savings would be, to do that, or money just from friends and family, or just a typical, banks and loans that there's corporate financing within these banks, and you shop around and understand what does that look like for your business. And then one other way of also financing the business is just to have partners, so equity ownership, which basically means just having a partner, having someone who's willing to just, if they love the idea, they're willing the resources, they're willing to invest in your business. And this basically means that you have a share in your business when you're getting started. Government grants and loan programs, that's always something that we have a lot of inquiries when it comes to government loans and programs. So I would suggest, and I'm give some resources in the following slide on that. Always look for, when you're getting started, it's great to just make a plan of starting with the least possible resources as possible. Because getting a grant is a startup is not as easy as people may think. So making sure that you're starting with the optimum budget in the beginning always helps.
Yeah.
or bootstrapping, starting and then building on that.
Dollar, I think you're maybe being too nice. Perhaps I'm going to pop some balloons here, but people starting a business, there is not a startup small business grant. Like there is, the government aren't kind of with $1,000 to give people who are starting a business. They have some loan programs, so like Alberta Entrepreneurs would be an example, where the government fund organization to do kind of for businesses who are at the start. But it's not very, there are not tens of thousands of those out there. So realistically, your own personal resources, a traditional bank loan, adding to your mortgage, that's where funding for new businesses is coming from. Where government more likely to kind of grant is once a business is is established and for to really go to the next stage. They've got something to work from, something that's reasonable kind of for them to invest in. But it would be a very risk strategy for government to use taxpayers' money on lots and lots of new very businesses. So what they tend to do is provide support to those businesses, but not necessarily direct financial support, just to kind of expectation, because we do have lots and lots of people of, I want a startup grant or I need a startup grant. And I just really want to manage people's expectations. That
No, thanks for that, Matt. Yeah, Andrew, it's that easy.
no.
And so starting small sometimes can be a good option. And yes, you feel that this is something that is within your budget and you're able to do that. And also having some financial literacy, because even getting a loan requires, just that, and that's what typically lenders or banks would do. They will check your credit history. So you need to have some kind of insights into how that might look like and how do you build that credit history to even get that loan. So a couple of resources there again for grants and loan programs. These are just a few. There are plenty of there are more. And again, encourage everyone to just call us and we can help you with any specifics that you might be relevant to your business. But Business Benefits Finder is a good start. There are probably 1,600 federal provincial funding programs that are on that. So you just Business Benefits Finder is a big database of these funding programs. And then as Matt mentioned, there are alternative organizations like Alberta Women Entrepreneurs. They focus mainly on, let's say, majority-owned businesses that are owned by women, or business development BDCs, another example. They might have specific programs for newcomers. And I know, Matt, there was a program by BDC for newcomers, I assume, yeah, and then Canadian Small Business Financing Program is just something where it's basically where the government is just sharing the risk for this loan. So it's more or less like a government bank backed. Some banks obviously offer that as well. And then there are organizations like Community Futures. They focus more on rural Alberta and the province. There are quite a number of offices out there, and they provide financing and depending on obviously your business idea and how they feel it impacts that community where you're planning to get started in. Futurepreneur is another one. They also provide some loans for entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, and they also have some programs around that.
I'm going to drop one in right chat right now. It's actually Winnipeg in it, and it is a Manitoba organization. But actually, when you go in and register, if you put Alberta, it'll show you what's available to you in Alberta. It's just kind of way of getting into the database. But it's Fundica, and it really, if it's there, it'll be on here. It's a very comprehensive database of every grant, every bank financing program, municipal government grant. So it's checking out as well. It asks you a few questions, and then it puts what's available there. But I've found it's be pretty accurate and very comprehensive. Yeah.
Perfect for that. And then if you're having a business plan is just basically a roadmap of what you plan to do, or just an outline of what you intend to do. And it's for so many reasons. One, it just gives you guidance on next steps. And it also helps you if you're looking to apply for a loan or for a grant. Typically, they will be asking for your business plan. And so a business plan is just a way to set your goals and your strategies on how to achieve those goals. And it also includes the financial piece. So, what's my startup cost going to look like? What are my projections? What am I expecting from this business? Several tools that are out there. We have what we call the Business Plan Builder. It's an online tool. Or we can also help you. We can do a business plan review. If you again, if you call Business Link, one of our team members can help you just understand how to develop one. What are the we have some resources to help you just write a business plan, and also we can review those for free and give you that kind of insights into your business plan and feedback. So a couple of sections, the main sections that are typically in a business plan, and usually a business plan is about 15 to 30 pages, depending on the business. That's usually the average. Executive summary is one of them. It just and outlines just the business, what the business is all about, and just an overview of what you plan to do. And then there's a business description. So what does your business do, purpose, and so on and so forth. And the market research is what we've talked about, and we can able to get that information from different resources. You can also use that as part of your market research about your business idea. Then there's obviously how do you want to, product, how do you plan to market and advertise for your product and service. So your overall just strategy and theme around that. And then there's also a section around, team and the management. So you're the owner. So a bit of background about yourself and, experience you bring to this business. And that's also, be relevant when you're applying for that. If you're using it for funding and attracting investors. Operations, how do you want to go about business? So day-to-day operations, tools you might need. I don't know, a CRM to manage your client relationships. You might need an inventory management tool to keep track of the stock. Like in Ahmed's case, he wants to import goods from outside and then sell them inside into local markets and so on. And then the financials, which is typically the piece that's also relevant when you're applying, if you're using the business plan for funding or for funding purposes, is how much revenue to expect, expenses, and your cash flow. As I said, the cash flow projections will give you that, like revenue and monthly expenses and how that translates into profitability for your business. And obviously your startup costs and what does that look like and what are the different elements of a startup cost. And you can also support that with references and appendices. So a business plan is something that we can help with as well in terms of reviewing it. And we have the resources. And there's also this business plan builder as part of the resources that we offer, which can help you develop a business plan step by step. Next slide. Yeah, so final section for today is just leveraging support. So these are some organizations that are, so many out there, just some of the organizations that are in our ecosystem, and they're similar to Business Link, providing support for newcomers, entrepreneurs, and just different services for newcomers in general. Action for Healthy Communities is one. They have different business planning, also workshops. They also do events every now and then. And then there is, an Immigrant Employment Council. There's a Newcomer Center. Some of them just, on settlement services, language, and so on. And some are just, go one step further into helping with business support programs. SIWA is one in Calgary. They've had a nice event, I remember, a year ago, and they've also attracted, which was focused towards newcomers who are looking to get started. And typically with these events, there you have other like ecosystem who are just there and showcasing how they can help and provide as much support as possible to the community. And then obviously just different community groups, and this is where I would think that comers tend to go to. And then networking opportunities is something that I obviously recommend, is just to take advantage of as much of that as possible, especially if you're looking into getting started into a business. We have something for established businesses. It's called the Peerpreneur, which we run every now and then. So keep an eye on that. It's on, again, service on our website. And basically, it's also about just bringing people who are in a business, established businesses, and they just exchange ideas, bounce ideas off each other, try to get some learnings from each other. And it's virtual sessions. So that's one venue. And then we have the event, which is coming up on Saturday, this coming Saturday. It's unfortunately it's sold out, but these events that if you're help as well, newcomers just to We with this event, what we're planning to do is just invite. We'll have a panel of speakers, one from the city, for example, of Edmonton, just to talk about licensing because it's going to be in Edmonton this year. To talk about just the licensing and what that looks like in Edmonton for different businesses, and then we have AMA registries. They also registry services and also Business Link just to talk about the business planning. And so we have also speakers on financial and networking and so on. So these events are typically, a way to just get yourself out there, network, just understand the business environment and what kind of support you can get when you're looking to get started. With there also the Small Business Week, which is typically on like from to 24. So that's coming up. So keep an eye on that as well. We usually have them in Calgary and Edmonton, and it's also a very nice venue just to network with other potential entrepreneurs in the city and get more information about trends and industry and so on. And then another area, just in the previous slide, just the Calgary and Edmonton Chambers of Commerce and Eventbrite. I use Eventbrite very often. So Eventbrite is a great way just to see what events are out there, just to keep an eye on their events as well. So you can also do that by going to Eventbrite. And then next. And just to close the presentation, I want to share some just newcomer business stats. So 1 in every 4 Canadian businesses now is majority owned by immigrants. And that's kind of number. So that's really encouraging for anyone who's looking to get started in business. These numbers for you. It's possible. You can do that. Just do pre-planning as I say, and are established by newcomers, and it's quite one of that stat. I expected, to be honest. It was significant, and the economic contribution now of newcomer businesses, it's over 168 billion annually to Canada's GDP. So that's a really big number, which also there's also a regional impact. So like almost 30% of all SMEs, like the small businesses, are newcomer than immigrant owned. And there's also metric someone who's looking to get started. So the survival rate is 85% to the average of 78%.
Yeah, that's really that really speaks to it, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? And that's why we absolutely attend here. That it's a great kind of starting, a strong foundation. It's great starting point. So thank you so much, Abdallah, and thanks for sharing that. We have in the chat, and I'm more than happy to do this, Lisa. If you could highlight that there are over 20 chambers in the province. So if anyone is attending from outside Calgary or Edmonton, you can connect with your chamber in your local community. So I'm very, very happy to do that. And a bit more about that is those chambers outside of the larger centers, outside of Calgary and outside of Edmonton, there's lots of small businesses, and the types of businesses that we're talking about today. There are lots of those small businesses that are part of those chambers. So they're very large, the Calgarys and the Edmontons, they're big businesses that are there. So in some of those smaller community chambers, it's a great place to connect with your community. So thank you so much, Lisa. And I've just realized I know who Lisa is. So that's hello to Medicine Hat. Excellent. Thank you so much, Abdallah. This has been a really, really great, great morning. And this is such valuable information and great for anyone who's thinking about starting a business. The one piece of advice that I want to leave people with is do not go this alone. Do not sit in your basement or your apartment or wherever you are thinking, I'm going to do this all online. I'm going to register my business online. I'm going to, sell online. You need to make connections, and that whether that's an accountant, whether that's a lawyer, whether that's with Business Link, whether that's with your chamber, you need to make connections and have a network in your community. So well done for starting it. Now let's take that next step. So thanks again, Abdallah. It's been an absolute pleasure. One big thing for Business Link, so important, you're going to get a follow-up email and you're going to be asked for your feedback on this session today. Please complete. It just means that we can then go on, improve our content, develop more like this, and really see working. It's so important, but it's what allows us to keep things like this free. So please do. Thanks again, Abdallah, and have a great rest of the day, everyone. Thanks, everyone.